Right, welcome back to episode 3 of the Sabercast interview series. We have into the studio today Air, the Simmer. And Air, thank you for coming in. I have one question before I start any of this, which is how do I say your full name on the forums?
So on this one, I think my full name is Irmer Zur. That's how you would say it.
Irmer Azur. Got it. All right, how are you doing today, Air?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I always appreciate this. I wanted to do sitting with the Simmer ever since I started the thing and ever since I got the Sim myself. So I'm glad to have you in here. So to start us off, I just kind of wanted to get to know you a little bit more. Not anything super personal or anything, just how you got involved in sim leagues and got kind of pulled into the simulation here. How you got into the NSFL as a whole.
Yeah, sure. So actually, this is my first sim league ever. I was browsing Reddit one day at work and saw it on I think it was on the New York Giants subreddit, and I kind of joined up, looked at it, was like, "What the hell is this?" Bookmarked it, and came back a couple days later and actually created a player.
That's exactly the same thing I did, except replace Detroit Lions or New York Giants with Detroit Lions. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Well, obviously you've become an integral part of the league, so let's kind of talk about that a little bit. How did you? We all know, maybe we don't know. For those of you who don't know, for season 1, Air was not the Simmer; it was Prince Kyle, who had subsequently stepped down, and Air took over. So, Air, how did you come upon that responsibility?
Well, I can't remember how late in season one it was that they kind of made the post that Kyle was going to be disappearing. He had a lot of stuff going on in real life, and so I kind of just threw my name in the hat. And I think as soon as I had joined, I had talked to Ballerstorm about just finding a league job to make money for my player. So I was doing the player progression team. I was putting in quite a bit of work there, and then I don't know who
Mm-hmm.
else applied for the summer job, but they ended up choosing me. So I kind of did a couple test things with Kyle just to get more so the streaming index updating sort of thing dialed in because I had started streaming or simming just kind of on my own for the Outlaws to
Mm-hmm.
fool around with our strategy, fool around
Sure.
with our build, all that stuff. So yeah, that's kind of how I ended up as the simmer.
So okay, so it wasn't something you had been like trying to get for a long time, or like as soon as Prince Kyle steps down, I'm going to be the same. It's just kind of, well, I've been doing this stuff and I've got the software, I've got the stream channel. Let's go for it.
Yeah, pretty much. It wasn't like my when I joined the league, it wasn't my dream to become the simmer or anything like that. Just like, oh, they need a simmer, I'll see what happens. And if I didn't get it, I was gonna be all right with that.
Well, hey, it seems like it's going pretty well. I've really enjoyed the fun season 2 stuff, being able to see every game. And you having saved them so we can go back and watch, kind of analyze what's going on, and then releasing the sim file to us at the beginning of every week so that we can kind of play around with it as well. It's been really helpful for teams, I know.
Yeah, like I don't know how many games were simmed in season one, but it definitely we've simmed pretty much every single game this week, which is or this season, which has been pretty good, I think, for just the community in general to facilitate watching the games, and there's a lot of trash talk and interaction that goes on with that. But then it also gets more people involved with the game planning side, and you can also, there's actually Cushing's probably a good example who will go through and actually analyze the film really effectively. So it's kind of opened up a whole new world for what people can do here.
Awesome. I know I'm very thankful for you having put all that out for the public here. All right, so next question. What we know your main job is to run the sim and to stream it for us. What kind of goes on behind the scenes? Like what else do you do during the week that we don't see to make the sim possible every week?
Well, so, you guys all get your stuff updated. So we put together spreadsheets that the updaters will go in and enter all your stats into these spreadsheets. And then, so first thing I do each week before any other simming stuff, I'll go in there and import everyone's stats into the sim, and we've got it dialed in pretty good, so it doesn't take too long most of the time, and sometimes we kind of have to go and I'll have to track down an issue if anything gets entered weird or stuff like that. And then obviously we've had a few issues this season where people get entered wrong into those spreadsheets, and then their
Mm-hmm.
stats in the sim will end up at some point someone had 100 strength. They didn't actually ever play with those stats, but then there was 100 agility and all that stuff kind of sneaks in there. So I kind of just do like, but I don't go through every player and check their stats after they're updated. And then the other thing that takes a lot of time behind the scenes is every GM or team, not necessarily the GM, I suppose, is spending time game planning and adjusting their strategies, adjusting their depth charts, moving people around all over the place. So I'm constantly putting these updates into the sim for all of the teams. So that's kind of another thing that takes quite a bit of time. But those are pretty much all that, behind the scenes wise that takes my time.
Gotcha. So you do as like even from day to day, like on Monday we see teams play and we know that, like, say, I'm sure the Outlaws do this, but you know what's coming up. You know who you're playing the next week, and they change up their strategy so that they have different guys in different positions possibly, or they change their run-pass ratios and stuff, or change possibly their play schemes. They send that to you and you go every Tuesday, go in and update all that stuff?
Yeah, so at this point in time, I actually do it Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So the GMs have to submit their stuff by the afternoon, and then I'll get them inputted for the games that night. It kind of gives me a little bit of time to make sure everything's entered and ready for the games.
Right.
There's been a few occasions where people have kind of missed the cutoffs, and we've gotten them in, and other times where they missed cutoffs, and I just didn't have time to put in their changes.
Well, I mean, real life happens too, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think it's been going real well. I know our changes that we've put in have usually taken effect, and we get to see the results of that. And I'm sure the other teams get to see that as well. I know our blowout against our huge blowout there was definitely a result of some questionable calling, but whatever. Doesn't always happen. But
yeah, you can't predict what the other team changed too. So I'm assuming everyone's testing their changes based on the previous week's plays, and then the other team might throw you a curveball that you didn't expect and screw you over.
Sure. So. All right. So what are your thoughts on the sim engine as a whole, on the engine itself? Like, is there anything you really like about it? Is there anything you really hate about it?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously a lot of people have some pretty strong opinions on the sim.
Yes, they definitely
do. Really fall into those categories of like raging at the sim, because I think when you watch every single game like I end up doing, you kind of see that every team's getting screwed typically on the same stuff. So it's not like, sometimes I think there are some players that have really unlucky seasons, but that can happen in real life too. So you just kind of take your blows and roll with them.
Sure.
I know that like just the home field thing's talked about a lot, and obviously there's a factor in the sim that causes the home team to win. And part of the reason it's such a big deal right now is because all of the teams are relatively close to each other in skill level, and as that gap grows, I think you're going to see the Legion lose at home a lot more this next season as all the other teams get even better compared to them.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking about this. Speaking of like teams getting weirdly screwed or odd plays being called, we know for a while there was some questionable timeout calling going on in the league, or non-calling or whatever. How was that addressed?
So we're working on a solution. I mean, I'm kind of working with the head office, and they're going to make the final call on what we do, but of just kind of, there's a way to adjust the ratios of play calls on certain, or on like any down and distance, basically, is how the sim breaks it up for offense. So you could technically change these settings, and then someone could run 100% of the time. Or throw, obviously. So that's kind of a benefit if you're down by 60 points and you have 2 minutes, you probably want to be throwing the ball. But there's also kind of just these opportunities for somebody to come in and literally run the ball 200 times in a game and, throw the whole league out of whack. So that's kind of what the league is trying to avoid. But there's definitely going to be some changes to give the GMs or whoever is helping teams make their strategies a little more freedom. I'm not sure how much yet, to be honest, but
that's
some level of more play calling freedom. So hopefully it will mitigate some of these, running on 4th and 10 with 30 seconds to go and being down a field goal or whatever.
Yeah. No, it's just been kind of interesting to watch these play calls happen from the sim. I know they're trying to simulate any given Sunday kind of stuff, and they're trying to simulate just play calls in general, trying to make sure that the team makes what it would believe would be the best choice. But yeah, we've definitely seen some interesting things, and hopefully when you adjust that stuff, it'll happen. Do you have any idea as to how changing those ratios might affect the actual plays called? Not just whether it runs or passes or whether they blitz or don't blitz, but like how it affects coverage or whatever. Because I know I just watched the Pro Bowl and I saw myself, John Canton, give up a 23-yard touchdown to Josh Garden because I decided to leave him and go blitz the quarterback.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's not going to be any ability for GMs to affect like what formations and plays they're calling to like that specific of a level.
Right.
Kind of how I don't know how familiar you are with the sim, but for people who aren't that familiar, you have, let's say it's 1st and 10, and you can choose what kind of defense you're running. So you can run a nickel or a dime or a 4-3, but you don't get to call, a corner blitz.
Right.
It's just kind of, and that's not going to change. You could technically set your blitz to 0, and maybe the league's going to make a decision that actually means your corner's never going to blitz if it's a true 0, but I don't know if that's going to be the case, but it could be pretty rare for that corner to blitz, depending on how you set things up.
Yeah, no, I'm decently familiar enough. I've spent a few hours with the sim, just playing around with it, but it's great to tell it to people who have no idea kind of what goes into the background of it. And for those of you who don't know, and Air, you can feel free to jump in or correct me on any of this. Basically, it sets it up where you can choose personnel and you can choose, like you said, formation styles and ratios. But you're relatively limited in those. On offense, you've got like power, West Coast, vertical, balanced, and default or something. And then on defense, you can target, run, target, pass, 4-3-3-4, nickel, dime. And that's kind of it. And then you just set a ratio for each thing. So 1st and 10, you run or pass. 1st and less than 10, short. 1st and long. 2nd and 10, all this kind of stuff. But you really don't know what's going to happen on the field with these calls. Now, that kind of brings me into my next one, which is like, we know that a new sim engine has been released, Draft Day Pro Football 2018. Are we looking into moving the league to that?
Yeah, that's definitely going to be something that's looked at, but I mean, it's not going to be, some people are like, are we going to play season 3? And we don't want to move the whole league over to a sim that just got released because there's definitely going to be all kinds of issues. And then, I mean, so to be honest, the sim that we use isn't necessarily geared towards the way we use it. It's more so geared for like someone to be a GM and compete with other GMs. So from the changes I'm familiar with, most of them aren't going to be like a huge change for us.
Right.
There's some stuff with changing like AI, and there's like coaches added, so I'm not sure how those coaches are going to be used.
I had looked into that, and I was going to ask you about that a little bit. And I think I've mentioned it on the forums too, but I saw that coaches were in there and that they gain experience and they have different play call tendencies and stuff. So do we know at all whether or not those will be able to be disabled so that we can have the GMs be full control, or?
So that's something that I will probably know tomorrow. My plan is to fool around with the sim actually later tonight.
Okay, so you have it now.
Yeah, I bought it on Tuesday, I believe.
Sure. Have you been in chat with Wolverine Studios at all? And for those of you who don't know, Wolverine Studios is who puts out the sim.
Oh, I have conversations with them quite a bit, but they don't they don't really like supporting a group where 400 people use one copy of the sim versus in their other leagues every owner has to purchase it, so it's kind of a waste of their time to give us much support.
That's fair.
Yeah, and from their perspective, I mean,
no, I totally
wouldn't waste our time with us either.
Yeah, no. I can't imagine that those other leagues where each GM has a copy of it aren't having issues where they're not calling timeouts as they're pushing toward the goal line to tie up the game. Or
yeah, I'm not sure how. Like, I don't know if they even watch every game. I'm guessing they just sim like every week look at the results and move on. Like I would be surprised if most of those leagues are going through and simming and watching each individual game.
Right.
So I mean, who knows? I don't
Yeah,
know
no,
for sure, but I'm guessing here.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I don't know the extent of what kind of communication you've had and stuff, so I asking the questions that are coming to my mind or that I've heard kind of trickled through like my Discord or whatever. So my next question is I noticed one of the, and I'm sure you'll know more about this tomorrow as you play more about it. It does seem like you have more play calling ability in the 2018 one. Is that true?
Well, so there's actually custom playbooks that you can do in 2016, but that's not something that our league has, and I just
Okay.
I can't see them allowing it. I'm
Right.
not sure if that's the only big change. I know they definitely changed like the custom play calling stuff in 2018.
Okay.
I'm not sure if the non-custom stuff gives you more freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully there's a way to use, so like from what I do know about the coaches in 2018 is like you can get a coach on your team that is more aggressive, so he's going to be going for it on fourth downs or whatever. So hopefully there's some way that we can implement something like that into our league where a GM can pick a coach that's going to, you know, run more on first down and pass more on fourth down and go for it on fourth and take long field goals or whatever.
Right. Okay, cool.
Flavor.
Yeah. I think we're doing the best we can with what we've got right now. I think you're doing a great job with what we've got here and making the information available to us. I'm excited to see what happens as we start to find out the intricacies of the 2018 sim. I don't know. I guess I'm just excited in general. It's the league's going through some pretty significant changes. It's kind of a great time to be in it right now, and I'm happy to have you here talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, the league's growing. It's doing pretty well. I'm honestly a little surprised with how many people joined for this past draft. We ended up with, what, 60-something prospects, I think?
Yeah, we had the full 7 rounds plus a couple extra, so that's a pretty solid draft right there. 56, 58 guys, I think, and then there were a couple who went undrafted because they created just a bit late or something. I don't remember, but...
Yeah, right around 60 then. I was a little high, but
No, you're fine. Yeah. All right, so that's a decent amount about the sim itself. Is there anything before we totally leave it? Is there anything you've noticed in tendencies with teams with how they act in the sim? Like, have teams kind of started to take on their own personalities within the sim?
I don't think so. I mean, it's kind of up to how the people running these teams are, you know, deciding to do things.
Fair enough.
I don't think there's any team this season that stuck to like one strategy that I feel like became their identity. Pretty much every team was changing up everything at some point in the season. I mean, you can look at almost any team went from 1 week they're running like crazy, next week they're passing like crazy, no one's really got that identity dialed in yet, I don't think. But that's something we'll probably see evolve as people get players and, you get 5 really good offensive linemen and a good running back, you're probably going to be power running it all the time.
So one last question I have about the sim for you, and this is just from my experience with it. I don't know how much kind of playing around you've done or not. I have noticed the sim seems to really, really like certain players. For whatever reason, and what I mean by that is like Break Bottles. He's an inactive tight end, yet he still puts up 10 receptions a game pretty much.
Yeah, I don't have any like solid evidence of anything, but I kind of joke about it regularly that it just seems like sometimes the sim picks a person that they like and they also have some people that they hate. Just I mean, look at Mike Boss in the Pro Bowl, a couple of minutes ago. He's statistically, with his attributes, probably one of the best quarterbacks. You could say the best in the league, and yet he's in there throwing 4 interceptions still.
Yeah.
I don't know why he's throwing so many interceptions. I mean, the outlaw in me can't really complain, but the non-biased source is kind of like, I have you can't really explain it. It just, the sim picked him to have 0 luck.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of his life now.
I totally get that. In running just with my own team, like poor Dan Miller TPE wise, one of the highest TPE guys out there. He's got 400 TPE as a defensive tackle, but he was putting up maybe a sack every third game or something. It was insane. And you know what was interesting is this will bring me to one other thing too. We moved him around. We tried putting him at like some other positions. We tried changing up his attributes, and like just by pretending he was a linebacker and moving back in the linebacker, he started putting up insane numbers. And we're like, what is going on here? Why can't poor Dan get through it? But I will ask you something here, because I found a weird loophole playing around with the sim, and I'm hoping you will nip this in the bud if you notice it. What I found is that and this was when we were playing around with Dan Miller as a linebacker, if I took Dan and I gave him his linebacker stats, and I put him as a defensive end, but kept his title in the sim as linebacker, where you can choose the title, if you know what I mean, or you can choose the position, he would put up at least 2 pass deflections every game. But if I switched him to defensive end and gave him the same exact stats, he wouldn't do it. He would no pass deflections. Like, he was putting up 2 pass deflections, 3 sacks, and an interception every 2 games. And it was absurd. And we'd switch him to DE, give him exactly the same stats, nothing. And I can't figure out if that's the game. The sim just thinks linebackers should get more hands on the ball or whatever. But I'm assuming that when they put them in a position, you're making sure that their position matches what they're lined up for the most part.
Yeah, so the sim isn't gonna. I've done some tests with defensive ends, a lot more than other positions.
Probably because you play one.
Yeah, and I just don't think the sim has it built in for them to get pass deflections or anything like that. Which, I mean, in real life it's not that common, but they just ignored it completely.
Yeah.
And so you could put a linebacker there and get those stats, but basically the league's handle on that is, if you look at linebacker stats, they're different than a defensive end. So I know one of the big things is the linebackers are going to weigh quite a bit less than most of the defensive end. I think every defensive end archetype. I don't know what the speed one versus like the heaviest linebackers, but their defensive ends are going to weigh more. So
sure,
if you went and did that with Dan Miller and also adjusted his weight to like be linebacker weight, I think you'd see those stats be worse.
I did. I set him to a linebacker archetype. He gave me the build, he gave me the weight, he gave me the height, everything. And then I just plugged him in at DE with linebacker still as his position, and that's why he was putting up those stats.
And he was putting up still the same stats all across the other front too?
Yeah.
Huh. I don't know then.
I don't know what to tell you. That was one weird thing that I found in it. I didn't know if you had checked that out or not, but I figured I could discuss it with you since you're here finally. Not finally, but you know what I mean. I'd been waiting for a chance to actually bring it up to you, and now that I've got you right where I want you, I can grill you horribly and get a gotcha on you.
I do think that the defensive end archetypes are pretty low skill cap wise compared to pretty much
that way.
Every position. I know linebackers are definitely higher, and I think once you get really high TP, it might end up being that it's better just to be a linebacker.
Right.
So that's at 400 TP, you're pretty much pushing the limits of a defensive lineman's like youthful skill points at this point.
Right. No, I just, that was one weird anomaly I tried, and just to alleviate anything else, I did try moving all sorts of positions all over the field just to see what would happen. We even tried, as a joke, we tried just changing everybody's title to linebacker on the front defensive line, and the sim went, you can't do that, so that's good. But we were just like, what happens if we just field all linebackers? Screw it. But it was just an interesting experiment that we had. Just what happens if he switches the linebacker and then we put him as a defensive end and pretend he's like an edge rusher? And turns out, sim loves that. So,
yeah, well, I mean, and if you run a 3-4 defense, you're going to have linebackers rushing pretty regularly. I mean, even in a 4-3, you're going to have a blitzing linebacker pretty often.
Yeah, no, it was just weird. What was the weirdest thing, though, was he actually put up worse stats when we had him in the linebacker role than we put him in the defensive end role.
Yeah, he was probably getting more tackles though, I would imagine. I mean, linebackers get different stats. I guess it also depends on where you had him at linebacker.
That's true. Well, I moved him everywhere. I seriously did. I put him at both sides of defensive end, I put him at defensive tackle. I just kept him as linebacker with the stats and moved him all over the field. And his best stats were as a defensive end. It was the weirdest thing.
Huh. That's interesting.
I don't know if that means anything to you. I'm hoping I'm hoping you'll watch out for that. That now that the secret's out, that if you're playing that way, I guess I've screwed everybody in the league now. All right, Dan, it's time to switch to linebacker. We're putting you at defensive end. But yeah, that was just one weird thing I found with the sim that I was curious your opinion on, or if you'd seen anything about it.
I'm sure if you fool around enough, you'll find lots of weird things in there.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, we've talked a lot about the sim, and I'm super appreciative of that. So let's kind of shift gears a little bit here. I just kind of want to talk about the Pro Bowl a little bit, maybe the upcoming season, maybe the draft a little bit. You're a very, very active user, so it's always good to hear your opinions on these kinds of things, especially being a member of the two-time world champion Outlaws. What kind of thoughts you had on stuff like that? So let's start with let's start with like the draft. How do you think your team did in the draft? I think you guys did amazing, as you always do. You guys put in a ton of work for that, but
yeah, I think we did pretty well. I mean, obviously, I don't know how much time other teams put into the draft. I talked to some people that are involved on other teams and their whole operation, but we definitely spend a lot of time reaching out to prospects and talking about prospects and scouting prospects. So that definitely helps us. It was a little weird draft for us, at least this season, because we really don't have that many player positions for new guys to come in and play. So I think we're going to end up probably sending more people to the DSFL than any other team in the league, just because we'd rather have the person we drafted get some time to play somewhere, than sit on the bench and do nothing.
Well, I mean, you guys did draft three cornerbacks to fill one spot, I think it was.
Yeah, I mean, so we have one corner that's not that active. He's like, I don't know when the last time we did an update was, but he's a little over 160 TPE. So it's really, we're hoping to get two corners that'll end up starting for us by the end of the season. Okay. But I mean, if all three end up being active, that'll be, obviously we drafted all three of them pretty early, so we hope they're all active, but you never know what happens with people. So we kind of went shotgun approach, and I'm sure we'll get somebody that'll stick around for us. That was pretty much the only essential hole on our defense that we felt like we could really address in this draft.
Yeah, no, that works for me. Well, kind of speaking of the draft, what do you think of the accusations of tampering from some of the Orange County guys?
Well, obviously, I know there wasn't any tampering going on, but...
Oh, no, I'm not saying of them. I'm saying recently in a thread, somebody accused you of tampering.
Yeah, no, and I'm saying, obviously, I know there wasn't tampering going on.
Yeah. I don't think you did it, but...
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't any tampering. I don't know what else to say. If talking to somebody outside of in Discord PMs is tampering, then I guess you and I are about to get taken down after this podcast goes live.
Oh, yeah. Oh, shit. I didn't think about it. Do you know how many prospects I've tampered with here? Oh, my God.
Well, I was in conversations with well over half of them, so I'm probably going down with you.
Oh, man. Back it up, guys. We're done.
You can do the rest from the suspension area.
Yeah, we'll call this. This won't be the Sabercast anymore. This will be the suspension cast. We'll be talking with all the suspended players in the league who have interviewed prospects in hopes of getting them to be drafted by their team. Okay, I'm sorry, I took that too far.
No, it's all right.
But all right, cool. What do you think about? How do you think the Pro Bowl went? I'm set that the ASFL lost. Obviously, I think we should have done better. I thought our defense should have probably been a little bit better, but that Outlaws defense that's so famed should have made up most of our Pro Bowl defense.
Yeah, I mean, but that was the best offensive line they've ever played in the league, considering they have
that's
top
true
guys from a bunch of other teams. Every team pretty much has one good guy.
I guess it was kind of what it was kind of the Otters defense plus a couple of upgrades versus the Wraiths offense with a competent O-line.
Yeah. I mean, two of them, actually, I think 3 of the linemen were actually already on the Wraiths, and I think Matt James is on there somewhere, and you can argue whether or not he deserved it or not, but his stats for the season were actually pretty solid. TPE wise, there's some people ahead of him that just struggled based on their team or where they played, but still they had some solid players that they don't normally have on their line over there.
I thought it was going to come back. It was so close.
Yeah, they got too far behind. They couldn't, pull a Tom Brady Super Bowl comeback and get the win.
Or a Chiefs.
Yeah, or it's Chiefs.
Chiefs immediately following the Super Bowl.
I think I'll blame our loss on Mike Boss for this one.
Yeah. I mean, nothing against you, Mike Boss, but 4 picks in the Pro Bowl, man. I know you're going up against the best corners in the league, but shouldn't you be doing that every week? Cool. How about, what do you think, how do you think the season's going to go? Do you have any predictions for, I think most people have already settled in that you guys are probably going to not only win the Ultimus again, but have the first pick in the draft again.
Yeah, I'm much more confident that we're going to have the first pick in the draft than that we're going to win the Ultimus. I don't have faith that anybody will be worse than the Legion. I think they've got last on lockdown at this point. But I think,
I guess as a Sabercat, that's good to hear.
Yeah, I think you guys will do better than the Legion. But I think that the Outlaws could easily lose, especially in the playoffs. It's one game and you're out of there. So,
right, yeah.
I don't even think the Outlaws winning the conference or division, whatever you want to call it at this point, since there's only 2, is a given. The Otters are a really good team, and they could definitely give the Outlaws a run for the money. They had some tough breaks this season, but they drafted pretty well, and if those players live up to their expectations and fill their holes, I think they'll have a pretty good shot at beating us in the regular season and getting home field in the playoffs.
I'm just hoping at some point Sabercats beat the Outlaws once. Just once. Just to knock you out of playoff contention. Just to see what happens there.
That's way worse. We'll pencil that in for season 30.
At least it's not the Legion knocking you out of playoff contention. Their one win for the season this year will be knocking you guys just barely out of range.
No, we try just as hard against the Legion as we do against the Hawks in the championship. We want to beat them, especially now that we have all their draft picks for these last couple of years. It's important wins.
Oh yeah. I will still question those decisions, but I can't blame the team who's going to profit from them. Oh my God. You guys are just manhandling the league at this point. I don't get it. You can't keep getting away with it, but I guess you can. I guess if the Patriots can, you can.
Dwyer's just got a silver tongue going, I guess. I don't know.
I can't wait to talk with him. He's shown some interest in coming on here and talking with me, so I'm definitely going to pick his brain about how he's pulling off these magical Sashi Brown-like deals.
You better watch out, or he'll start running the Outlaws podcast studio, and you'll be the one who's coming as the guest next time.
Oh yeah, right. If any indication is there, yeah, and I'll be. He's going to draft me to the Outlaws, and then he's going to send me down to the DSFL, and then bring me back on a rookie contract or something. I don't even know how. I'm not even going to be a member in the conversation of this.
He'll just have his own guests lined up for when you're supposed to interview him.
Yeah, it's going to be the Sabercast podcast brought to you by Dwyer. I'm just going to get a message once a week. You're interviewing this person. It's going to take this many minutes, and you're getting this % of cut. Deal with it.
Yeah, he's generous if he's giving you a cut.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's only 10%, but I know what I was going to bring up. Recently in the media, Jackson Tuck and or Jace Tuck, Jackson Tuck.
I'm Jace Tuck.
Jace Tuck. There's Jackson Tuck as well. Jackson Tuck is the one who showed up in the draft. Jace Tuck is the one who's been around. Got it. Jace Tuck was recently seen with Vincent Sharpay practicing in Chicago. What's that all about?
Just practicing for the upcoming season, man. It's coming.
Just practicing.
Got to compete with the best to stay on top of your game.
He's declared his player option, and now he's practicing with an outlaw. I see how it is.
Like we said in our media, we're only talking about, football strategy, the free agency stuff. That's all Dwyer's doing free agency. I don't know.
All right, all right. I'll take your word for that. Hopefully Dwyer's not telling me he's poaching him off the bench here. I'm afraid, like, even though I don't believe that Sharpay would leave us high and dry. You can never know. Rain Delay and Hackett did. So
yeah, hopefully you guys can start keeping some of your guys around.
Dwyer's that silver-tongued demon who sold his soul to win the NSFL repeatedly.
Well, at this point, we're kind of becoming the Warriors, where all the people come, they can get their ring, move on,
and leave. Just take a 1-year deal with you guys.
It looks like that's how we're able to get our free agent signing this season. With Pat Pancake was apparently pursued by a lot of teams for a lot of money, and Dwyer convinced him he could win here more than anywhere else. So he's here for this season. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, maybe I should get in on that 1-year ring thing. Maybe I know what I'll do. I will pull off the what's his name? The Michael Floyd.
Okay,
I'll do that strategy. I'll get blasted drunk and then kicked off my team and then drafted by your team for 2 games where I win the Ultimates by sitting on the bench. And then I'll just retire with a ring and it'll be fine.
Hey man, I'm not going to say anything about you joining any teams. I think that might be tampering.
It's tampering again. Damn it. I can't. Is it tampering if I say I'm going to accidentally get drunk and get drafted somehow by your team? I think it is.
I don't know.
I don't know what is or isn't tampering anymore.
I just want to be clear on the record that I'm not tampering.
Yeah. I think we all want to be clear on the record that we're not tampering, especially with that being thrown around everywhere anymore.
It's league buzzword.
It is. It's the new trigger.
Yeah.
It's I'm tampered. You're tampered. He's tampering me. Oh geez.
If anything goes wrong, that's the problem. If you lose your sim game, just say tampered.
Yeah, that's what it is. We did not go on an 8-game losing streak because we were bad. We did it because there was tampering. What do you think about the accusations from Archon that it's your reason that it's because the Simmer is on the team? That's the reason the Outlaws are winning so much.
Oh, I think Archon's just being Archon.
I mean, I would be asking Ballerstorm about his coke addiction, so.
Oh, well, that's true, though. So you want to tread lightly over there.
Oh, is that actually true? I can't tell. I can't tell if you're joking at this point.
You're just going to have to ask him, though.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I will. Let's be honest. It's going to happen. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, man. I really, really appreciate it. It's great to talk to you. Hopefully we can keep in touch here as the season goes on. I've enjoyed my time here. I don't know if you have or not, but I think this is a great way to get to know you a little bit better, kind of get to hear your ideas behind the sim and what goes on behind it, get some new people who might not know as much an idea of what goes on to make the sim possible every week. And I hope that maybe sometime you'll come back and join me again.
Yeah, man, it was a good time. Hit me up anytime if you need a guest, I'll come on and we can chat about whatever. It doesn't even have to be the sim.
No, honestly, I'd love to chat with you about whatever. I just figured we get the sim one out of the way so that was on the record of the simmer talking about the sim. So we get it from your mouth directly, so we can't call tampering or shenanigans or whatever anybody wants to call. They know that it's not you deciding the fate of the league. So Again, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you, everybody else, for listening. If you are interested in coming on the show, please send me a PM on either the forums or on Discord. If you have any more questions about the sim, please, I believe there's the Ask the Simmer corner, right?
Yeah, it's pretty dead over there.
Yeah.
Feel free to post anything you want over there, and I'll do my best to answer it for you.
That was half of my reason for doing this. I saw that was dead. I figured that would be lively time, but apparently people have decided they know enough about the sim despite not having ever used it or anything. So please, guys, use that. I'm sure he'd be happy to answer the questions and happy to improve your knowledge of that. One more little bump here. Air, I believe I've seen that you are looking for an assistant simmer.
Yeah, I'm looking for someone to help me out, because we've got the DSFL starting too, so Simmer's become a 5-day-a-week job starting next week, I believe.
Yeah. Can you give us a little bit of the details of that? Kind of looking for, kind of what your the pay is going to be?
At this point, I think the pay is just going to be the standard $4 million, and depending on how much work the person ends up actually doing / having to do, I'm sure I can get Baller to bump you up to compensate you well for your time. I more so focusing on someone that can stream games. So, you don't even necessarily you can DJ a little if you want, but if you can make people watch in silence, even, I don't really care. So if you're pretty decent with Twitch and interested in streaming some games, put your name in the hat.
All right, you heard it here. So if you guys are interested in streaming, that is over in it's in the announcement section, right?
Yeah, it's pinned in the announcement, so hopefully you should be able to see it pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, all right. So please, Air needs help. I've been talking to him a little bit beforehand, and it's a heck of a job for no actual money. He's putting a lot of time into this league, and we definitely appreciate it, but he could definitely use some help. Maybe get an extra piece of pro gear a year and a free weekly training. Not too bad for just streaming some games and making sure that Dermot Lavelle doesn't keep requesting junk songs. But in all seriousness, thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Air, for joining me here in the studio. Please stay tuned. There will be a formal announcement from Sabercast Studios about our release schedule for these, and if it's not already up at the time this gets posted. So if you would like to be a guest, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, please email, PM me. I always want to know that. I'm always looking to make this better for you guys. Hopefully, as more people start listening, we'll get some more interesting things going on in the in the podcast itself. But other than that, thank you guys for listening, and I will see you guys next week. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in again to the show. If you like what you heard, please remember to smash that like button and obliterate that subscribe button. Comment below, let me know what you thought. If you liked it or if you didn't like it, I want to know either way. If you want to be a guest on the show, please PM me, Sweetwater, on the NSFL forums or on Discord. And if you are interested in having one of your pieces or your team or your player or whatever highlighted, please do the same. Thanks again, guys, and stay tuned for next episode of the interview series, which is our interview with Ballerstorm, the owner of the league, an exclusive you will only hear here on Sabercast Media.